Good morning, everybody. I'm Rajan Sinha on behalf of Asia Coaching Network. I'm welcoming Dr. Rakesh Dullu, who is one of the newest members of our network. And we will be talking to him on what has been his journey so far, and how did he get interested in coaching, and what has been his experience as a coach, and how does he see coaching as a way forward. So once again, welcome Dr. Dullu,
थैंक
and
यू सर थैंक यू वेरी मच
thank you.
सबको हैप्पी न्यू ईयर बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं
Thank you. Uh, so, Dr. Sab, how would you like to describe your journey and learning this?
so thank you rajan ji to give me the opportunity to share my life story briefly with people and मैं शुरू में I'll just describe exactly who I am today
Yeah.
and then I'll go back and how my journey started and came to this particular point. Basically I am a person who values life, who values people, and always is looking for opportunities to add value to other people and add value to everyone, including myself. So, this is broadly what I am today. I am a wellness and health consultant. I have worked in the corporate for about 3.5 to 4 decades. Basically, a medical graduate, a primary care physician originally, and but finally my liking and calling was health and wellness, and so I shifted gradually towards less about clinical medicine and more about preventive promotive health aspects, and therefore I spent 3 to 4 decades in corporate sector, which was god given because somehow I got this opportunity and I liked the opportunity because sitting on one side of another individual and talking to him and conversing with him or her, knowing the background, knowing the suffering, and then trying to help without that person having to pay me directly, interestingly, was something which I really loved. I did my medical graduation from Srinagar. I belong to J&K. And the story is similar to many, many stories. Like my parents wanted me to become a doctor. And so, I was persuaded and I went into and became a doctor. And I joined the armed forces in 1984 and served as a short service officer in Army Medical Corps for 5 years. The moment I joined, I had thought that this is my dream, so I would continue to serve in the armed forces. But uh, though those 5 years have been one of the finest and the best, actually have helped shape my personality. A very huge part of what I am today in terms of human nature, discipline, you know, management stuff, which we talk about great deal in the corporate sector. I learned way back when I was in the armed forces, which is a huge thing. And I not only always look upon and cherish those 5 years, but respect greatly the organization and what it has taught me. But for some personal reasons and some rethinking over a period of time, I thought that, yeah, this is fine. I did it, but I must get back into my civilian mode and go ahead and try to do something different. And I got an opportunity in 93 to join the corporate sector. And then I served thereafter throughout in the corporate sector. And that I love to do. That, if a person is sitting opposite me and I have enough time and energy to give it to him, to understand his problem, to understand his persona, and to help him with health and wellness without him being to take out money from his pocket and give it to me just like in a private practice. It may sound a little strange thing, but for me it was very, very comfortable when the person did not have to pay me because I was already on the rolls of the company. And therefore that comfort helped me to serve in the corporate much better. I actually thrived. I learned a great deal. For about 23 years I trained people there in health and wellness. And the corporate gave me a lot of opportunity to train myself. I should say, and I must thank the corporate world and the companies where I have served. I've served in Hero Honda, erstwhile, which is now Hero MotoCorp, and I also served in Honda Cars.
Mm.
And so in this corporate career, I learned a lot of things. There were a lot of trainings I went to as a trainee. I qualified as an occupational physician, which I was already doing that work in the industry. And finally, in the last phase of my career, I also became a lead auditor in occupational health. So these were, but my focus was uh, how a person would attain wellness, regain wellness, attain wellness, promote wellness, maintain wellness. This was my focus. After I finished my corporate career in 2017, I took retirement. I had a lot of plans for myself.
Mm.
And one of the plans, interestingly, was to continue as a trainer.
Mm.
Then something happened 2017. I lost my wife. We have a daughter. She's 28 now. And in that year, 2017, she has just graduated as a fine arts graduate. And she was just about to, thinking of starting a career and all. And both of us were shattered. And my daughter was in a very bad shape. And so I had to literally gather myself and for her sake, and then we spent time together. And that time, maybe we talk a little later, that's quite revealing to me what I learned, what my daughter learned, how I was able to help my daughter because of some learnings myself.
Mm.
And so 2018, while during that 1 year from 17 to 18, I certified as a trainer. I thought I'll continue, and as I had thought earlier at the point of retirement. But while I was studying how I can help people more in wellness, while I was getting into details that wellness alone is it's not an isolated topic. It is connected to the entire human range of possibilities.
Mm.
That's why I am my favorite terminology is wellness 360. 360 means it's multidimensional.
Mm.
And so the approach to wellness is also has to be multidimensional.
Mm.
And when I talk of multidimensional, is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of health. The same dimensions belong to us as a human being, and the same four dimensions now are talked about as energy, because we are vibration. It has now been proven beyond doubt that all we are is vibration in a non-physical entity. And so, therefore, these multidimensional wellness concepts took me gradually towards this spiritual learning.
Mm.
And in my spiritual path, human being as an innate, infinite possibility became the cornerstone of my learning and growth. Finally, this is my goal. This is my target. This is my objective, to know as much as I can about a human being, so that I can help other people to learn. And when I talked about adding value to other people, let me mention here briefly that uh, in my very humble 4 decades of career, I have found out that the greatest thing that a human being lacks today,
Mm.
and if there is one particular root cause of all trouble that a human being is in today, it's
Mm.
that he doesn't know himself as much as his forefathers used to know. I
Mm.
mean, knowing oneself is a huge journey. I mean, it doesn't finish. But the fact is that the natural way that the education about your own self was being imparted thousands of years back in a system called a Gurukul, your personality would develop in such a manner that you would yourself become, each individual would become capable of facing the challenges well, persevering, and finally moving towards a higher goal and higher dimension.
Mm.
That part is missing.
Mm.
And while touching the spiritual aspect in my journey through the pathway of wellness and health,
Mm.
that is what now is become a passion for me. That the more I learn about human possibilities,
Mm.
the more I want to tell somebody or convey in certain ways to somebody that you have everything in you. You don't need anybody else.
Mm. Mm.
And that this aspect touches me very much.
Mm. How did you get interested in coaching?
Yeah, so that's very interesting. interesting because it connects to the last part that I was just mentioning, that 2017 I certified as a trainer thinking that I'll continue to train.
Mm.
And that thinking was because I wanted to add value to people. And then something happened that 1.5 years that me and my daughter spent to gather ourselves back, after the shock and the tragedy that we had faced. My daughter was in, basically we can call, she was almost in depression. So both of us, after our relatives came and went away, and then both of us were together for about 1.5 years, we just did nothing. We were there for each other, basically. So she did not talk. I did. Most of the times there was no talking. Now I'm describing this. There is something very deeply connected to what I'm going to tell you. So the point is, I was waiting always that she starts talking and expressing what she feels so that I can respond. And also because I was also in a state that I had nothing to say, because she had suffered as much as I had suffered, and maybe she suffered more because she was in a younger age and she was just, she had a lot of things to talk and share with her mom, and suddenly she lost her. And then gradually, after a year of helping her out, and then she started expressing, then she started discussing very briefly. The talking part was basically the listening. That then I realized that we actually listened to each other in silence. Today, looking back, even my daughter acknowledges, which is what I feel strongly is very much true, that we listened to each other. And it is one of the most fascinating experiences of my life. And also my daughter experienced the same thing, that something happened because we allowed our silences to speak to each other, that she learned, I learned, and we were able to overcome that whole travesty and then move beyond that. And today, with God's grace, she has gotten into the fitness industry. She's still training, and she is looking forward to a career in health and fitness itself, because she had no interest in pursuing design or fine arts after graduating. But then she was very uncertain. She had lots of turmoil mentally, and then her mom passed away. That turmoil became 10 times more. And then that 1.5 year from 2017 to 2018, that was really remarkably impactful in the lives of both of us. And then during that period, I was also reading something, and I was, as I said, I was continuously on this watching videos of masters and trying to learn. And then I got suddenly into coaching. I found something about coaching. I started studying it, and I found that I got interested in it. I thought that this seems to be the particular way of helping people that I was looking for. So I was saying that the moment I found out about coaching through internet and I started studying it more and more, I got interested. I happened to meet one who is a master coach in ICF now. And then I talked to him, and he invited me to his office in Gurgaon. Luckily, it was in Gurgaon. I resided in Gurgaon. So I went and met him. I met him, and we had about 1.5 hours conversation. We had a cup of coffee together, and it was very nice, talking about common interests and then coming to coaching and all. And then there was this issue, because he told me we have a session coming up. It's a 4 to +4 2 modules. And this is training for certifying as an ACC coach. As a master coach, he helped me very, very clearly move out of that dilemma and decide to take the decision that I must go through these 2 modules. And that's how. And that actually may not have been a professionally paid coaching session, but that was my first encounter with what coaching can do to a person. To drive you from out of your dilemma into a very decisive, positive, forward-looking kind of a thought process. So then I went through those 2 modules, and I'm delighted here to remember that Leela was part of that group, and we were a very good bunch of 28 people. I think we had a jolly good time, wonderful sessions, wonderful conversations with everybody, and that is the time I really found that I'm in the right place at the right time. And then coming back to my coaching there as a coachee, because this was part of the training. So one of the sessions where I became a coach, and in that my dilemma, which I kind of put in front of my coach, was that I have been a physician, I have been an occupational physician, I have been a wellness person, I have been a trainer, I want to add value to people, I have learned so many skills. Now I am not sure should I leave everything behind and do only coaching, because that time, frankly speaking, now I can tell you with confidence, my dilemma was I have to give up everything else and I have to do something called coaching. I mean, I'm putting it in inverted commas, that something called coaching is now to be pursued exclusively. And I was a little jittery because, if you have learned so many things which are positive, not negative, for 3 to 4 decades, and which have been your forte and your strength. So it was a little uncomfortable for me to think, should I have to leave all this and then delve into a new field? If that is so, then it was not it was not a no-brainer for me. It was some kind of a discomfort. And that session for about 45 minutes or so, it was amazing, because in retrospect, I can say it was amazing, because at the end of the session, it came out that I don't have to leave all my skills. I have to utilize all my skills and then learn the new skill, and then use all that experience and wisdom in this new space to help people, which that clarity I got through that session. It was quite an emotional session. It was it was wonderfully carried out. It was really path breaking in a way for me, that I understood that no, I have what I have and I have something more now. And so all this is something which I can use in the new space exclusively. And after that also, after I completed that training, then some more time my daughter was with me, and we were still on the path of recovery, as I had mentioned to you earlier, from that very big tragic incident in our life. And then I started, and by that time, as I mentioned, my daughter had opened up slightly. So it was not complete silence sessions now. It was now we had started talking. Okay. I do not know whether God had wished it or not. I have reasons to believe that it was God, divine intelligence, which was putting me through all this and keeping me and my daughter silent for some time, so that I could come back with new coaching skills to see where she can go from here. And after that, my attempt always had been to ask her questions which are relevant, just like we do in a coaching conversation. And she also had started opening up. So then she went through a very torrid time, but came out of it with her own insights, and which helped her to take decisions. And very clearly, I can never forget that apart from many other things which went into her recovery, which were deeply personal in our lives, the very fact that the patience and perseverance that I had to show, which I had already learned from my elders, from my mom, from my grandfather, and the health and wellness aspects which I had learned and trained for 4 decades. And then came to my help the coaching skills and the insights that followed my training and all as a coachee. And then it kind of was a kind of a fresh impetus into the journey forward. So my daughter was very well impacted. She started taking decisions. She started moving ahead in life. She came out of all that deep, negative kind of a space. And here today, she is in a higher vibrational alignment. She is in a much better space. And this, for me personally, is a bigger impact than even my own life. That to see my own child come out of a very deep distress, where anybody in my place, anybody who had not either had a wellness background or a coaching background of some sort, would have been dependent on other professionals and not able to go through the journey as well as we both went through. This is absolutely the takeaway of not only the my human dimension as a what I have learned in 3 to 4 decades, but also the impact of the coaching skills and the masters in coaching whom we saw, followed, heard, learned from, and then kind of applied in my life. This was the first application, in fact, of coaching skills I applied with my daughter.
Very interesting. So what I'm getting from you is that apart from all the learning that you had from masters, coaching skills was a very powerful help for you in order to address your own challenges in terms of your daughter, and that reinforced your belief as that coaching can be a powerful instrument of human development,
human development and change for the better. Yeah, certainly.
Okay. Any example where you used in your professional practice?
I must thank God Almighty who sent me this opportunity of this Indian Oil Corporation in Panipat refinery. They required an experienced retired doctor, occupational physician in particular, which fortunately I have been for 3 decades. So it came naturally to me that this job I can do comfortably, there is no issue. I can relate one particular instance which is particular importance. That there is a lady, maybe mid-30s or little over that. She is working here in a department. She came to me once for the same reason, but then I found that she wanted to talk to me because she was very anxious and depressed, almost depressed, I should say. So here she had an issue at her office with her boss. She had been working for, I think, 15 years or so. She was good in her job, has been good in her job rather, and she has been working diligently and doing all her work nicely. But as usual, as we know, there are bosses who are not satisfied and they create barriers. And so she had a lot of issues. Her husband is working somewhere else. They have very good relations at home, no issues about that. She has 2 daughters grown up. They are all, both of them, doing very, very well. She is highly educated and she is working, but she is always in a almost anxiety, depression kind of a status, because for years together, she is not happy at the workplace because of, according to her, because of her boss. And so when she was willing to share her story and let me know about it, then I utilized my coaching skills. I tried to listen to her. I asked questions, and it led us to have a conversation. And we then had 4 conversations in 4 months, almost 4 to 5 months. Every time she used to come, after we used to have this conversation, I used to help her with a little bit of reflection and introspection. But as you know, with people who are anxious and partly depressed, it's very difficult because sometimes they actually need counseling and advice. But I was not only looking at her condition and seeing whether it is the right time to tell her to go to a specialist, and so that she doesn't go beyond a particular limit into trouble. This was also a challenge for me as a professional doctor. But with God's grace, gradually she found herself, after each conversation, she used to go back with some positive insight. She used to thank me. And finally, she was very confident and happy. She said, yeah, I have found it out now. I have to take a decision this way or that way, but I'll give it a try for 1 month. And now I will not be cowed down so much. I know that it is all imaginary. And in all of these sessions, she always used to break down almost. She had tears in her eyes because it was quite a troublesome emotional issue for her. And then she managed over a period of time, gradually, and finally she said that it's like, I have really realized that I wasn't on the right track, and now I have found it out, so I'll manage myself.
How do you see going forward coaching as a way of helping people help themselves vis-a-vis training and
First of all, maybe to the point of being biased, because now I am myself impacted, I would say that at the outset, it's a very beautiful skill, wonderful professional skill, where people get insights and they transform their lives. The best part about coaching is it doesn't tell you what to do. It triggers that innate potential of you finding out your own way. That is the best part. That is the part that puts it at a higher pedestal as compared to the other skills, wherein you are actually driving a change. Here you are not driving you are driving just an insight. In fact, that also you are driving through the innate capabilities of that particular human being. So this is what I like about it most. Now, about the potential, definitely based on this, it has got huge potential for individuals, for businesses, for families, for relationships. I have, in my own humble capacity, one observation, especially when I started, when I came in touch with the Asia Coaching Network and all you people, and I went through that webinar at the outset, which was very revealing, very good to know a lot of new things, a lot of visions that people have about coaching. So first of all, who requires coaching? I think one of the 2-3 things I would like to share here as my personal observations is, number one, generally today, the successful part of coaching, when I say successful, I mean commercially successful, not necessarily professionally successful, because I'll just come back to that point in a moment. The most of the commercial successful coaching is happening in business executive coaching throughout the world. But I was myself surprised and astonished that some of the most hugely successful commercial and, you can say, professional coaching, personal coaching is already happening parallelly in the world. There are people who are doing tremendously great work, who are changing lives, individual one-to-one, and they have broken a myth that coaching cannot, I mean, it's very difficult for coaches to earn money, because one of the things that we found out, in statistically also true, that maybe 90% of coaches are not earning the money they would love to earn. And then there are books written on it. There are master coaches who are coaching coaches into how they can start earning more money than they are earning. So all that sort of stuff is happening throughout the world. And I went through guys like Rich Litwin is one of the coaches, master coaches, and Steve Chandler. They have written a book, The Prosperous Coach, which is a wonderful book. And they broke the myth that anybody who's a coach who wants to earn big money in coaching can earn big money by doing wonderful work. It is not necessary to just keep doing your work, marketing yourself, and not getting the clients and so on and so forth. So there is a parallelly very wonderful professional growth pattern in coaching growing. So I had this issue earlier that probably executive coaching is the only one which is successful. Personal coaching, still people do not know. Now, the second observation is that as far as the Indian context is concerned, which I was happy to get associated with, or kind of have ASEAN kind of organization to look towards, as far as I am concerned.
Mm.
is somewhere deep inside me. I used to always have this thought that, throughout the world, we are having this beautiful coaching development all around
Mm.
as a professional skill of helping people, but it's happening in English, maybe some other languages, I don't know.
Mm.
But what happens to a person who doesn't understand this language but yet needs coaching? This
Mm.
question used to come to me. I never knew there was an answer, frankly
Mm.
speaking, some time back,
Mm.
till the time that I went through the webinar of ACN and I talked to people like you and that started discussing. I
Mm.
think suddenly a guy like me, who is still in an infancy of coaching,
Mm.
suddenly has become very confident, and you can actually have this beautiful skill to help people, even if it's not in the language that we know it is being practiced today.
Mm.
Because should language be a barrier? I think not.
Mm.
Should culture be a barrier? Again, my answer is I don't think it should.
Mm.
Because if it is all about introspection and reflection
Mm.
and insights, this
Mm.
is what my learning is. All coaching is all about reflections and introspection leading you to insight, which leads you to transformation. This is very
Mm.
clear.
Mm.
Now, all these kind of modalities have no language, they have no culture. Reflection has no culture,
Mm.
emotion has no culture.
Mm.
So, why should it be kind of bogged down because of that? Now,
Mm.
how to go about and develop it in a
Mm.
manner that, you know, any skillful person sitting with anybody else in any culture, any language can be coached and helped. This is the ultimate
Mm.
that I feel should happen. And one small insight here I would like to share is that in my own family, when my grandfather has been instrumental, I consider him my first guru actually in my life, after my parents, of course.
Mm.
Now, a large part of my persona, what is developed today, is because of my grandfather. And
Mm.
what did my grandfather do? He
Mm.
coached me in Kashmiri and Hindi. I
Mm.
mean, if I may use this terminology of language, he coached me he never talked to me in English. Though he knew English, I knew English.
Mm.
But our mother tongue is Kashmiri. And
Mm.
since, unfortunately, Kashmiri in schools was not taught. So we lost out on that.
I know. Mm.
But in our family, it was still there. So,
Mm.
and then my mom used to talk to me and do coaching. Now I can reflect, they were informal coaching sessions.
Yes.
So they were in my own language. So I
Mm.
think these barriers need to be broken, not because the coaching in English is not effective, but because you have to deal with people not necessarily knowing this language.
Okay. Great. Great. What you're saying it is coaching is language agnostic, the word that
Exactly.
you used earlier.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. That's
Thank
what
you,
I
Dr.
think.
Sap. It was very enlightening to
Thank you,
learn
sir.
you, and
I
thank
thankful to
you.
you for giving me the opportunity to first connect
Yeah.
with an organization like this and a personality like yours, and secondly to, in my own humble way, to share some learnings, some thoughts. It feels very good. I
Thank,
look forward to continuously working with ACN and learning from it.
thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you very
Sap.
much.